Hi, this is Human Hamza, and this is another video, part of the Waves 2U video tutorial series. In this video, I'll show you how to assign permissions for users and groups, which provides specific access rights to items in the system. This includes web pages, files, and database tables. In a previous video, we showed you how to assign roles, which was a broader set of permissions. Basically, that handles which users have access rights to specific modules in the system. For example, the website role allows users to access web pages, or the file manager role allows users to access files. However, the roles are not enough. They simply provide entry to those different sections. Basic users will still need fine-tuned permissions such as read, add, edit, write for particular web pages and files before they can act upon them. Now we're going to go to one of our users that we created in the previous video, and we're going to assign some permissions for that user. In that previous video, we noticed that once we assigned roles, the user was able to log in and see the sections, but still wasn't able to access any web pages or files, for example, in those sections. So now we're going to assign those permissions for this user. So here we are in our users and groups section, and I'm going to toggle over to manage users. And I'm going to select this user, John Clyde, and I'm going to edit this user. Now, there's a couple of ways to assign permissions for a user. One is to locate the permissioning item here on the top in our dashboard scroller. Another is to open the CMS tree and go down to our security section and click on permissions. Those are both entryways to the overall permissioning interface. However, if I'm here in the Manage Users grid, I can also edit a user and click on User Rights, which will take me directly to that interface with this particular user selected. So you'll notice here, we're now in our permissioning interface, but that user, John Clyde, is already pre-selected. I won't have to go through and locate that user and bring him over to this bin. Of course, I can always assign bulk permissions at once, so I can either select another group here and bring them over to this bin by dragging and dropping. I can also do that with a particular user. I could even use this arrow key. But in this particular case, we're just going to assign permissions for John Clyde, the user. Now here there's a couple things going on. On the top, we can search for a particular user or group, either alphabetically or through a free-form search. That will change what's in this groups and users list. Again, we just saw how we can then bring users from this groups and users list over to the selected groups and users bin, which is ultimately who will receive the permissions we're assigning. Here on the very left, we decide which type of permissions we're assigning. Now I'm going to select my website, which is Waves 2 in this case. And all the pages within the website are going to be loaded here. Now, this is the hierarchy that we see on the left, and you can see that for this particular user, we don't have any rights to these sections. When I select the user, if they had any rights, these particular items, which you can see next to each page are grayed out, would be highlighted in the specific color indicating that that permission is assigned for that particular page. Now here we have the type as website selected. I can also go to database tables, internal files, a couple other items that are listed here such as widgets, our document creator or docs, which is a specific widget. But in this case, we're going to start with web pages. So here I can say that, you know what, John needs to have access to, say, the home page. You can see that as I clicked on home page, that particular page is listed under the Manage Permissions bin. I may also choose features. And let's say we choose one other item down here, such as the case studies page. So now we see that we have two regular pages, but then one folder page, which simply means there's subpages in that section. So now it comes time to assigning permissions for this user. What will John be able to do in this particular section? Now we can always select all, which means John has full control over these pages. Or we may remove a couple of items. For example, we may say that John can't delete this page. And we may say that John can also cannot publish this page as well, which is the execute permission. Now with propagate selected, that simply means that any subpage of these sections will receive the same permissions we're assigning for the parent page. Similarly, any pages that are added in the future below these pages, whether it's an addition to the feature section or it's a new item that's added within homepage, those pages will also inherit these permissions for John through the propagation. So that's really all this propagate item is for. Once I'm ready, I'm going to click on save. And it's going to ask me if I want to assign further user rights. If I was okay, I could just cancel and go out of this section. In this case, I'm going to click on OK, and I'm just going to simply select John, the user here. And now we're going to see that we're highlighting the items that John has permissions to. So for example, he can read, add, edit, and obviously propagate simply means anything added within this section will also receive those permissions for John. And now we're seeing exactly what John has access to. Let's assume we also want to assign some table rights for John. We can hop over to the tables section, and it's the very same concept, except now we're only dealing with the tables. So I may say that the contact form table and say the FAQ table, John will need full permissions for. So in this case, I'm going to do the same actions. I'm going to click on save. And again, we'll say, okay, assign further user rights. And now we'll see that John has these particular permissions for these particular database tables. So now what we could do is log out and log back in as John. So we're going to get a nice glimpse of what a basic limited user's interface experience is when they have access right to a few pages and a few web pages. And again, remembering that a layer of roles has already been assigned to John to give him access to the entry point of those sections. So now we're going to open up our CMS tree menu. If I open up Manage Content, I'll open up Manage Websites. You'll see that John has one website that he has access to, which is Waves 2. And everything is grayed out except the sections that John can really go to. You'll see that since we have propagate set to features, all of these pages John has received those same permissions for. So we didn't have to go and individually select every single page there. And again, if we add a new page from here, John will also have permissions to that section. Let's, for example, go to the features section. Now that our page is loaded, we'll see that we're on the features page, and John can edit this page. But also recall that there were a few permissions, such as publishing the page and deleting the page, that we didn't give John access for. And that's why those two icons are missing. Otherwise, John will be able to delete or publish this page directly from here. We can also go to our database tables and notice that the only two tables that show up are the two tables that John has permissions for. Remember, there was a whole set of tables, about 20 or so tables listed in that particular section. However, John here has permissions to access these two tables. So again, there's a couple of different layers that work together with our users and groups. First, we can create users and groups within the system. We can then provide roles so that those users and groups can have entry points to different sections. But ultimately, as we saw in this video, we need to assign fine-tuned permissions to pages, database tables, and files so that users can actually go in and act upon those different assets within the system. And that sums up this particular video that covers permissioning within Waves 2 content management system.